Hey, everybody, welcome to the official Do Good Better podcast. I'm your host, Patrick Kirby. Of course, we talk to small nonprofits doing great big things. I have a great one, a personal favorite. We haven't even gotten started, and I'm already declaring that this is going to be one of my favorite episodes in the entire world because it combines a couple of things. One, it combines do-gooding, and then two, it combines gaming. And if you can do that, you have bestilled my heart. And that is exactly what Jeremy, who is with Leyline, is going to talk to us all about. Jeremy, how are you? Welcome to the official Do Good Better podcast.
Thank you, Patrick. I'm truly honored to be here. I really appreciate it. And I'm a fan of the show. In fact, a lot of your tips and content has helped me be a better entrepreneur. So this is really a dream come true to be here.
I'm blushing already, and I am so excited to talk with this. Okay, so this is something that came across my desk. This whole concept of what Leyline does, and what it basically is, it's gamifying, allowing. I'm not going to. No, screw that. I'm going to stop this. I'm going to introduce you to tell me what it is because you're going to do such a better job of it. I'm going to sit as a viewer and as a listener on bated breath about this program, because I think you're going to get such a kick out of it on the uniqueness of this nonprofit and what their goals are. So I'm going to give you the floor first. This is how we're going to play this.
All right.
So Jeremy, give me the 5,000-foot view. People see gaming, they see video games, they see do-gooding in this podcast. They have no idea who you are, what you do. So you need to give them a 5,000-foot view of who you are, what you do. And then we're going to dive right in on how this is really going to revolutionize, I think, the idea of research and gaming at the same time, which doesn't make sense on anything on paper, but when you talk about it, it absolutely does. Jeremy, the floor is yours.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. You got it. I'll start with just a very simple elevator pitch, which is essentially people should be earning a passive income for doing good things in the real world. So we are going to be building a digital economy that's going to reward altruistic activities. And the first use case for us is that we are actually going to be connecting users, and particularly gamers, to donate their spare computing power from either their PC or their smartphone to scientific research and accelerate solutions for COVID-19, cancer, climate change, space exploration, a host of diseases by orders of magnitude. So that is the trick, but it's actually just the first use case for us. We are going to be incentivizing all sorts of nonprofit causes and supercharging pretty much every nonprofit on the planet. And so we could do this by activating the 2.7 billion gamers on the planet to start to contribute just passive activity to improve the state of the world. So that's the very basic pitch. And when you think about the use case, it's as simple as you sign up for an account, you download an app, you let your computer sit overnight, and you just rack up Leyline points while you're donating to science. You earn those Leyline points and then use it to claim gift cards or coupon codes or any type of exclusive items that have been donated by our sponsors that are worth real world money value. And then you can claim that, use it, or even trade it and make even more money off of that by selling it to other users on the platform. So we are essentially reversing the paradigm of if you want to do good in the world, you've got to spend money or spend your time or give your skills, which is costing you. We want to make it such that you are earning money for doing good things. And once you change that paradigm, this becomes this reinforcing positive feedback loop that just goes on forever. So that's essentially what we're aiming to build, and we're making some pretty good progress here. So I'm very, very happy to be here and talk about it with you.
If any of you know me personally or have listened to the show enough, this is like speaking my love language in a number of different ways, and this is why I'm so excited. Okay, so let's walk through a couple of these things because I'm so curious on some of the detail. So I think when people listen to how you're going to use your computer power to help do research, what on earth does that mean? And how do you actually make that a reality? Because I think A, it's scary if you don't know, and then B, very confusing and Space Odyssey 2001-ish if you haven't like sort of dived into sort of crypto anything on the internet. So walk me through scenario by which a group is doing research and how your computer plays a part through Leyline.
Absolutely. So the great thing is that there's actually two components to what we're working on. The first core component is actually we're building this very agnostic digital platform that essentially any nonprofit can plug into or any cause. And then we bring the users and incentivize both from intrinsic motivators and intrinsic motivators to engage in doing good things. So we're actually partnered with a project called BOINC. So this is a Berkeley Open Infrastructure for Network Computing. It's a mouthful,
Yes.
but it's actually based out of UC Berkeley. So I've been connected and working with Professor David Anderson over there for over 6 years now. And so what he did is he actually built this platform, and it's fully open source, open knowledge. And the first project was actually SETI at Home. And I'm depending on whether you're familiar or not, it's essentially like exploring the cosmos to see if there's extraterrestrial intelligence. And so what happened is that all these people were donating tons of computing power to help accelerate the data processing that they needed. So what happened is now BOINC has become this platform for over 25 or so different science projects to plug in and then get this access to this decentralized supercomputer. So you have to imagine a research scientist that doesn't know marketing, doesn't like really do a lot of fundraising, so they can't really get a ton of money to pay for Google Cloud servers or Amazon Web Services. So they need this donated computing power to actually get their stuff done. So when I was talking to David, essentially I saw his challenge, which is like, hey, listen, I'm a scientist. I don't do PR. I don't know how to like engage users and interest them in this stuff. Like, and if you look at the UI or the user interface on BOINC, it feels like it's kind of from the 70s, which I don't blame them for. So when he and I were talking, I was at the time over at Blizzard Entertainment, where I was working for over a decade. And I came to him saying that, listen, we've got 60 million active users every single month, like hitting our platform. Think about the computing power there. And we ran the calculations and, just in the sum aggregate. So if we took just 1% of the 2.7 billion gamers on the planet and had them donate to science, it would still be like 1,000 times faster than the world's fastest supercomputer. That's just 1%. So just imagine how much we can unlock and just drive scientific research insane. And to me, the most recent opportunity was imagine a world where COVID-19 and the pandemic is lasting 3 more months. How much damage and impact is it going to have in the world? Now imagine accelerating a solution for that by 2 months. Oh man, the kind of improvement in life, the lives that we can save, the livelihoods we can save is incalculable. So that's the first major partner that we have is BOINC. But the great thing is that now that we've built this proof of concept and we can demonstrate that people can contribute their computing power safely, securely on the blockchain to these research projects, we can now scale it to any number of activities. So actually, these are just recently breaking developments for us. We are actually having really good conversations with the American Red Cross in terms of blood donations. So now that we've got this platform that rewards any altruistic behavior, we can absolutely reward people for donating blood to the Red Cross. And I'm a pretty regular donor myself, so I've got my blood donations, my plasma donations. The Red Cross has a full database of every time I've donated, so I can just hook up my Leyline account and say, hey, Red Cross, I'm a anonymous user. Here's just my ID. Let's link it together. You let me know whenever I've been validated, and boom, I get a bunch of Leyline points. I get this really cool, special, amazing health potion that's gonna sparkle and make my avatar look amazing.
Yep.
And then I use those points to claim a bunch of gift cards and coupon codes, and or just sell it to other people and make some money. So we're trying to make it just easy. We just want to make it easy for people to find something they care about, to contribute to it, and then get something back out of it. So a real return on investment. And one thing I do want to emphasize that we've mastered in the gaming world is the idea of how do we identify intrinsic motivators. And so when you think about what are the things that drive human behavior, you have to recognize that people want to do good in the world. They want to be with friends and socialize. They like to compete. They like to have their social reputation and show that, hey, I've accomplished this much. These are my achievements. and they obviously like money. So we know exactly, I've been working in the games industry for quite a number of years, and I can happy to talk about the journey getting here. But the data is very clear on what engages users. And one of the problems that I found is that we're engaging users to just kind of suck money out of their wallets. And in my eyes, we should, if we're going to have that technique exist, let's use it so that we're sucking money to like give back to people and help save the world. So,
Yeah.
so that's the theory.
Yeah, it's so fascinating to me because, again, if you, my inner geek and my inner nerd is just like on full mode right now, because there's so much we need to talk about on this. We need to talk about open source a little bit. We need to talk about blockchain, and we need to talk a little bit about how gaming is really helping methodologies and really helping pandemic research as well. I remember reading a story, and since you named Blizzard, you name dropped that we're going to talk about this, is because there was a situation a number of years ago where in the World of Warcraft there was a corrupting there was actually a pandemic within World of Warcraft, right? So there's a corrupting element to World of Warcraft, and it acted exactly like a pandemic would, right? So people would bring it from village to village, and you would actually have people quarantine and wouldn't allow people in, right? So that would actually stop the pandemic. And the research done on pandemics uses World of Warcraft and gaming as what natural would help in the actual natural world and help build pandemic plans based on what happened in an actual gaming environment. Am I wrong on this? Because this is one of the more fascinating stories that I have read about how to do good while using games as a structure.
That is absolutely correct. And funny anecdote, I was actually on a team that deployed that virus, which is like super
really
funny.
Yeah. Hilarious.
We had a lot of late nights getting that thing rolling, and things got out of control. So we had quite a bit of server issues too. But you're totally right. What I found fascinating is that we essentially built these virtual worlds, and so many of the rules and systems that apply in our larger real world today are absolutely simulated there.
Yep.
And in particular, what I found interesting was the economy. So we know exactly how to control like the inputs and outputs of mining, crafting gold and items and selling them on auction houses.
Yes.
And what was interesting is that, there's real world money attached to those items, and people were actually selling them on eBay and creating these gray markets and black markets. And to me, there's something very special there, which is one, gamers and just individuals are attaching value to literally things that are not even physical goods, and they will be willing to pay hundreds of dollars for a piece of armor or a sword, which could be mind-blowing to many people.
which is even more ridiculous if you get into the Twitch community, where you were actually paying hundreds of dollars for actual emojis that somebody custom creates because they have a bunch of followers. Like, it is an insane world to dive into, and if you're outside of the gaming world, and this is a total foreign concept to you at all, think about different outfits that you would get playing the Switch, for example. So you got Mario, you're playing Mario Kart, for example. And this is a very high level, sort of like the basics of the basics. Right? You're playing Mario Kart, but you can get different versions of Mario to play Mario Kart, right? So or you're playing so different costumes. Well, that is monetized in this sort of gaming community that you actually would pay for to be different than everybody else as part of your playing. Well, that's part of this giant culture. And so you have the power of everybody who is very used to paying or earning or going through different levels in order to unlock some of these things. And now you're just unlocking a potential for good, right? Rather than just you paying them to get something, you're now actually giving them time and computing power in order to earn those. So this is not a foreign concept to anybody within the gaming community. But for somebody who doesn't game necessarily, this is like, what on earth is this world that you live in, right? So it's so funny because you're speaking the language that I use, right? So it's a different skin in League of Legends. It's a different a power up in sort of online gaming communities, Final Fantasy Online or Skyrim Online. You're playing all these realms. You are paying. The system might be free. It's free to download, but then to get any of the cool stuff, you have to pay. Well, you're taking this, flipping it on its head, which is just brilliant, by the way. Is taking all of these things that we are very accustomed to doing in the nerdy gaming community, and you're just putting their use to good things like research. And I need to ask you the follow-up question about open source research, because this is something that's fascinated me for a while, is that the potential, what used to be in a vacuum, right? You used to be an academic, for example, you would be a professor, you're like, I want to learn about space. So you're like, I'm going to take a sliver of space and you're going to do research. You're going to put a telescope in there and you're going to stare at it by yourself in a corner forever. And that kind of thing is what you need to do. I think that is it's an interesting piece that doesn't really help. So tell me a little bit about how open source works and how this enhances science altogether.
Yeah, absolutely. Ooh, I mean, that's there are so many benefits to open source that it actually helps quite a number of vectors.
Yeah.
One is certainly just the very basic, which is everything is fully transparent. Anybody in the entire internet can see exactly how your code works, how the functionality goes, so you're 100% trustworthy because you can be audited at any moment. And there are two elements. All the different research and science projects that we work on are open source. So that means that the community can actually participate. They can review the code. They can actually submit and recommend changes and even contribute to improving the product itself.
Right.
So what happens in the open source community is there are hundreds of engineers, designers that just give their time and their skill to make sure that a great product is improved and actually functioning very well.
Right.
So these researchers are not only developing on open source, but they are, soliciting opportunity for people to develop their skills and be a part of the project. And all of the knowledge and data and findings that they get is just open and free to the public. So, ultimately for most scientific research, one of the biggest deliverables is a white paper. So they produce a white paper, they have it peer reviewed, they have it published onto a scientific journal. So all of this effort is really just kind of culminating into those papers, which are then used to start to develop new drugs or therapies, or make some significant impacts, like creating a vaccine, for example. So that's the big benefit of open source, is trustworthiness and having the entire population participate in something good. We are taking that same exact principle on our side. So the entire Leyline platform will be fully open source. People can view the entire thing, check on us, and we are taking this idea of radical transparency to the absolute maximum. We're going to be live streaming our key meetings. Our budget is going to be transparent to the community. All of our salaries are going to be public information. It's going to be very scary. But we have a community Discord where we will be doing community nights every week and just talking and just saying, hey, this is how things are going. These are our plans. This is our roadmap. So yeah, we're taking a bit of a risk, I think, because many private companies tend to just hold that, intellectual property close to the chest. And we're saying, screw that. We're going to give it to the people. Knowledge should be free. I
think what you're doing is what nonprofits should be doing all over the place, which is not being scared of anybody taking an idea and running with it. You're just the better fit for it, right? So yeah, it's why we give a lot away at Do Good Better Consulting anyway, right? We give away all these ideas and these features and these helpful hints on how to raise money, because we know that there's a finite amount of people who can take it from concept to execution, right? So we can give it away. Nobody's going to do it. It's going to be fine. Yes. So that's why I think this is so brilliant in the open source. But I appreciate the conversation about what open source is, because I think that's a very confusing thing.
Open source and open knowledge. Another big inspiration for me as well has been Wikipedia. That is such an amazing foundation and product, where essentially they're like, we don't want to, make money by showing ads to you. Just help donate to us, and we will create this platform where people can share freely their knowledge. And wow, if you think about, Wikipedia is what, the fourth, largest internet site in the planet.
Yeah.
And just think about the knowledge they've been able to give out for free. And, I see that paradigm, and that's what I also saw, like, hey, there's a gap here in the private sector, where the private sector has been so incredible in capital efficiency and process and organization and knowledge and templates, etc. So, I've built up so many of those throughout my entire career. And I always believe that sharing it with team members and or groups ended up really elevating us all as a whole. So that's why I just want to say, all right, fine, let's just give it to everybody. And one of the programs that we're developing now, it's we're still kicking the tires on it, is essentially this apprenticeship program. So we're targeting a lot when it comes to students and graduates, as well as potentially people that have been recently unemployed due to the economic downturn. And essentially, they are free to just hop onto our wiki, our Slack channels, see and hang out in our meetings and just be a lurker and observer and just see how professionals get things done and network and just get some hands-on experience. I had a very interesting tenure at Blizzard where one of my roles was heading up one of our collegiate organizations. So we essentially had a network of over 300 college campuses and essentially these Greek orgs centered around gaming. So gaming is just a really powerful unifying force. And interacting a lot with the student organizations and esports organizations, I saw wow, this generation is going to save the world. Their creative capacity, their passion, their view of what the future can be is so amazing. Yeah. And the really sad thing that I saw was that these kids are loaded up in student debt once they get out of college. And there's basically going to be no jobs available for them because, the stats are, stats are 30% of college only 30% of US citizens go to college. And then out of that, only 50% graduate. And out of that, only 50% are able to get a job relevant to their degree. So it is a horrible situation for many of these students that are getting out into the world, and it's accelerated because of the pandemic. And on top of that, any job that they can find that isn't opening, they need 3 to 5 years experience. So it's the ultimate catch-22. So when I was speaking to a lot of these individuals, one of the biggest demands was, I just want to learn. I just want to meet people that know how to do these things and absorb this knowledge. I don't care about making any money. I just want to get a chance. And so that's what we want to create. I think we could do it very easily. We've got over 50 people on the project now, and a good chunk of them are volunteers and people that just want this thing to become a reality. And because they're so passionate about helping, they see mentorship and teaching as an incredible way to give back. So we're developing that program now to basically bring in as many people that are passionate in changing the world, getting experience.
I have said for a very long time that the video games was one of the better educators that I had, in the sense of it helped with theater, with storylines. I mean, a great story when you see one. I dare say Final Fantasy III, best story of all time. It's what got me into it's just classic. You also you get camaraderie in some of these group gaming pieces. You learn to deal with trolls. You learn to deal with bullying. There's a lot you can learn within the gaming system. And so, but part of that education piece is they know where to give back, right? There's a sense of you're helping your team, you're helping others. There is an altruistic way that one has to game in order to get better or do better within the game itself. And the ironic part about this is that it's always taught me that, you make these decisions and then it's based on whether you're good or evil, or, back in the D&D game, this is where are you chaotic evil? Are you chaotic good? What does that look like? That you build a character around around a personality, and it always works out that the teamwork is where it wins. You can't go rogue and on your own because it's just the forces of evil are always more powerful. So you got to band together and figure out how to work together, and it takes a whole diverse group of people to build a well-rounded team in order to defeat sort of evil as good, right? You can't be all battle mages and just it'll be murder hoboing on everybody. You have to have this balance of cleric to warrior to rogue to whatever. Again, I'm not even apologetic to those who are listening to this because this is the geekiest thing I've ever talked about, and I love it. I knew it from the beginning. We had our conversation. I knew this would be great. Yes. So this has always been an internal belief that gaming is going to help a lot of people, and it also you can be able to socialize people who don't necessarily know how to interact with people one-on-one learn how to socialize within a gaming network that helps them get out into reality. It's like, okay, well, this is exactly how I would interact with somebody within chat, which is how I would interact in person. And those gamers who just love the fact that they have to be quarantined all the time, this is like our time. This is our time is now.
That is absolutely right.
So harnessing this for good, I think, is really interesting. Before we get into a couple of other pieces, I need to ask for a very dumbed down version of what blockchain is. Because for those of us who understand or want to understand this Bitcoin era, the idea of blockchain, unless you know what the hell it is so utterly confusing to us. So what is it, and how is it used within Leyline's system in getting from point A to point B and verify? What is that? Tell me this.
All right.
Make it Pat Kirby a bull in my ear.
Okay. Yeah, this is going to be a challenge because blockchain is incredibly sophisticated. But the most simple way I could say is that blockchain is the most ultra secure encryption known to man at this point. And so essentially, you could build this database that cannot be hacked, and the data you have cannot be duplicated. And that is actually one of the biggest game changers.
Yep.
So if you take the example of music, and the fact that you could just take a piece of music and then copy it 1 million times on the internet, that basically destroyed the music industry, or rather the old guard music industry.
Yes. Yeah.
So what the music industry struggled with is like, hey, how do we produce some music and publish it such that people cannot copy it? They could not do that, and only blockchain enables that now. So that is very special because, you know, there is a big craze around cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin, Ethereum, etc., which is actually very well poised to be successful because of blockchain. That fundamental technology is really key. But there's more, like there's way more than just minting a coin. The idea that you can create these unique, secure digital assets means that you can do things like secure your identity completely. Nobody can ever hack that. You can actually do secure voting and make sure that you're a real human being and not a hacker. And in our side, we actually can create unique digital items. And what they're called is NFTs, non-fungible tokens. And these tokens are really interesting because they're essentially a permanent, unique item that will never, ever be replicated or copied or stolen in the history of the world. So we are basically going to create these items as digital game items that will be part of your identity on Leyline and in the blockchain space. And so again, like coming back to the World of Warcraft analogy, when people were selling their avatars, like, they're leveling up, spending hours and hours grinding and beating, bats and doors and dragons to get their sword, shield, etc. These had intrinsic value because it's part of their digital identity. So we are actually creating your digital identity on Leyline, where you've got your super slick, badass, epic avatar items. You have a nice pet. It's super cute and it's glowing and all that stuff. And it's all unique. You own those items. And even if Leyline disappears off the face of the planet, you will still have that. And it will still have utility and scarcity. And because it's on a blockchain, it's actually usable in every other game that's built on a blockchain too. So this is really game-changing stuff that just does not exist in a traditional gaming world. And I'll give a really interesting insight here where, I talk about, some of these World of Warcraft items selling for hundreds of dollars. In the blockchain space, there is a game called Cryptokitties. So in Cryptokitties in 2018. 2017. One Cryptokitty. This is just an item that you collect, just a little digital kitty that is unique. No one can copy it, and you can just trade it. Sold for $170,000. One item that does not exist in the real world. So now imagine that value getting into the hands of a kid in a developing nation like India. And that kid could get their first smartphone, get their, satellite internet from SpaceX, which is launching very soon. And now imagine that scenario where that kid who maybe makes 15 cents per day from labor getting or donating to science just by doing nothing, and then claiming a reward and being able to sell an item, not even for that much money, but like $1,000. That is already like 5 months' salary for that one individual. And now think about that family having access to the opportunity and that community. This could be so game changing for so many people on the planet. And because it's all digital, this economy is global. There is no restrictions on whether you can get this value or not. So that's really the hope, is that we are putting a massive dent on eradicating poverty. And the reason why it can have this big dent is that it just, we are designing it with a real business model. So it just keeps on going and going and going. So essentially, we're taking the craziest stuff from the private sector and then just ripping it and plugging it right into the nonprofit sector, and we're going to put money in people's hands.
Two thoughts on this. If you're a nonprofit listening to this and you just heard that particular story, kind of what, the $170,000 for a digital kitty, there is money to be had in the gaming industry. The highest paid players in League of Legends get paid more than Tom Brady does playing for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Let me rephrase that. They get paid more than professional football players. We're playing a game that I am terrible at. Right. So this is like, I have my grandiose vision, like one of these days, man, I'm going to be the best sup I can be. It's going to be amazing. I'm going to, right. So that's one thing. So there's money to be made and money to be had, and there's money to be talked about for those who are within the gaming community. So it's a portion of your nonprofit business that if you're not into or not talking with your supporters who happen to be gamers, you should, because that's another thing. Because
actually, Patrick, that's a really great point. And sorry to interrupt,
no.
But I worked at Blizzard for over 10 years, and one of my positions there was actually doing international operations and business development for esports. And so, very, very apropos to your comment about traditional sports, we mapped out the trajectory of esports viewership. And within 10 years, it is going to overcome all traditional sports viewership in aggregate. Yes. It is really insane, the growth that we're seeing in that space. So in very many ways, like I was at the biggest publisher in the world, and these brands were essentially coming to us and like, we want to reach this audience. All these millennials and Gen Z are ad blocking. They don't look at traditional media. They're more about like, they want to be affiliated with their passions. So they're actually willing to pay top dollar to reach this particular audience. So there's certainly a benefit to being able to understand that ecosystem and that culture, to embrace it and to be able to communicate with it. So highly recommend it. And always happy to share tips. Like, I got a lot of nuggets from inside the industry. So Patrick, and I'm happy to keep on talking to you.
I'm literally going to put you in my cell phone and we're going to nerd out on whatever this is. It's going to be great. Yeah. Speaking of nerd out, and because you mentioned boars and because you mentioned Blizzard, and clearly you have watched the South Park episode of sort of the World of Warcraft South Park episode. I'm gonna throw this out there because again, 2021 is all about manifesting sort of big dreams and big, hairy, audacious goals. We need to figure out how we can get like a do-gooder sword that is the equivalent to the Sword of 1,000 Truths from that particular episode, where if you are so good, you get a do-good sword that shoots out paper airplanes or whatever the case may be, and that'll be our ultimate weapon if you donate like a certain amount of time. That's our combo powers here, Jeremy.
Patrick, my friend, we are going to make this happen, because here's a really cool thing is that I'm the CEO of the company, so I get to like make whatever crazy decisions. Yes. We will create an avatar of you for you and just make you so amazing. Like, the most badass superhero in the universe. Yes. Like, it's gonna be so much fun. But also another funny story. So on that episode, Blizzard cooperated a lot with the South Park creators. So the antagonist, the Ultra Gamer, was actually modeled after one of our like main guys in the company, and he's like a split, like it's exactly him. It's so hilarious. So we walk around the halls and you bump into Joe Ray Hall. It's like, oh my God, there we go, South Park.
That's like the bonus conversation we got on this podcast, and it made me this happiest. I'm literally going to go out of this interview. This is going to make me the happiest person in the entire world. Okay, well, so we're coming to the end of the podcast. Again, we talk about this for 1,000 more times, and we probably will. I think this deserves follow up on how you're going to do, how are you doing, and where we're going to go with this, and how people can help and how people can get involved. Because again, how we're trying to transition, altruistic individuals to do good. How do we do that? How do we maintain this as a thing? However, let's talk a little bit about how people can get a hold of you and Leyline and register and get on the waiting list to be a part of this program as you roll it out, because I think it's super interesting. You're going to want to be on the cusp of this. Honestly, if you click on all the links that we're going to sit in the podcast show notes, go through it, and like everybody on social media, do it. But then how do we get on the waiting list to help out so that we can be on the front lines of helping scientific research and ending homelessness and being a part of climate change? How do we do that? Give us where we can go. I need to know.
All right. Yes, here we go. Thanks for the opening there. There are many ways, but to simplify it, first I'll give some context on where we are in a project. Yes. I launched this company only 4 months ago, and we're moving insanely fast. Mainly because we have this massive crisis that we got to address.
Yep.
And so we're at the stage where we've built a proof of concept. We've built a really talented team. We just need to make sure we have funding to keep us going over the next year or so, where our business model kicks in and we become sustainable.
Yep.
So we're actually running a crowdfunding campaign on GoFundMe. We'll plug the link in for the show notes. But yeah, that is the big push right now. If we can raise $3 million, we are good to go. This thing is going to happen, and this thing is not going to stop. Mm-hmm. And any dollar that's going to go there is going to go a long way. Most of our budget's really going to be focused on hiring talented labor, creating jobs, and we're aiming to create hundreds of jobs. Mm-hmm. At the same time, we're going to focus on just the basic server and operation costs, and then a little bit into marketing, but it's all about investing in people. Mm-hmm. And any excess that we raise that goes beyond our operating budgets is going to go right back to the people. Yep. Either in form of like Bitcoin gift cards in a prize pool, or also our commitments to be a carbon negative company. So we intend to not destroy the planet. So we want to make sure we have budget to set aside to, essentially, plant trees and capture some carbon, So that's one element. So if you check out our GoFundMe page, and even if you don't have any money spare, totally cool. Just sharing it and spreading the word can make a massive difference. So that's where we are right now, and we are still constantly bringing on new team members, particularly in the volunteer space. And you can also check us out at leyline.gg. That's our main website. You can see all of our information, and that is actually where you can register for an account. And it's super easy to do. Because we are very early in development, the approach we're taking is that we're running a friends and family and exclusive alpha test. So it's a very rough build, but we deploy every single week. New features are rolling out like crazy. We move incredibly lean and fast and agile. And we're scaled globally all over the world. So we're a 100% remote company. We have people in Canada, Argentina, France, Germany, Philippines, Belarus, and the US. So we can pick up anybody that we need, which has allowed us to be very, very fast and nimble. And when you register on leyline.gg, you'll actually be added to the wait list. And so our wait list, as we produce features each week, we're going to add more alpha waves to help us test it out. And there are some great incentives for doing this. For one, we've already seeded $1,000 worth of gift cards into the prize pool. We have some of our sponsors that have already donated coupon codes for Zydex hardware PCs, and even one of our sponsors is actually Geek Therapeutics, who's created geek-centered training materials and courses for improving your mental health. It's really amazing. So not only do you get access to that prize pool, and you also have the opportunity to keep these non-fungible tokens that we're going to be creating during a test. So, I don't want to promise anything, but again, I want to put in perspective where World of Warcraft items sell for $100 and a Cryptokitty sells for $100,000. We are going to give you some of the most exclusive items on the planet, and it is going to be super, super cool to see. So anyway, we would love for anybody to be a part of that alpha test and part of our community. We are hyper engaged, hyper transparent. We want to just have some fun. We want to save the world. We want to be with like-minded people that are passionate. And we could do this thing. We could really, really do this thing.
If you're not sold on that, I don't know what we'll sell you, because that is exactly what I will be doing here in the next 12 minutes after we wrap up this particular podcast. Seriously, Jeremy, one of the most unique things that I have ever come across from a how to do good in a very unique and very interesting way, not only from the gravity of how like positive you're going to make an impact on this world. Seriously, this is just unbelievable. And this the fact that we both speak the same nerdy language made this a whole hell of a lot more fun than I even imagined it was going to be. So get your rear ends over to leyline.gg. I'm going to drop all the links in the show notes. Go like them on social media. Go sign up and kind of register and see what this is all about. Thank you so much for the time today. Honestly, it was so fun. We're going to have you back and do a recap on maybe a couple months, and we'll see how things are going from there. Go check out the crowdfunding page. Well worth a view and well worth a couple of bucks to make this a reality. And we're going to check in with you soon, my friend, and see how things are going along. Jeremy, Leyline.gg, thank you so much for being a guest here on the official Do Good Better podcast.
Thank you so much, Patrick. And if I may, I am so honored to be here. I really appreciate it. And in fact, I absolutely would love to come back. And I feel like we're going to have a really cool friendship going on here.
Yes.
And I think that I've realized how powerful and important entrepreneurship is, and anything I can do to help share knowledge with your listeners and people that are looking to also do good and even partner up, anything I can do to help just give some knowledge out there, I'm very happy to do so. So thank you so much. Seriously.
Oh, absolutely. Well, our conversations have just begun, my friend. So I can't wait.
Yes, indeed.
Well, check out everything. Click on the links below. Like everything. Donate everything. And let's make this happen. Jeremy, thank you again for being a guest. It's been
Patrick.
Appreciate it, man.
All right. Take care.